Welcome to the WIZZKWIZ tutorial series, tutorial 11. In this tutorial we're going to look at races. Races are basically a test or a quiz, something like that, where you compete against other people and you can see on the screen how well you're doing against other people. So let's have a look at how this system's going to work. So we're into WIZZKWIZ, and you'll probably notice here there's this new MCQ race there and list MCQ races there. You don't have to actually be MCQ, you can ask any type of question you want, but it's, I suppose, originally based on being a multiple choice question type database. So let's have a look at clicking that, list MCQ races, and we can see here, if we look down, we can see a whole list of different races that have been set up. Obviously it's in the early stage at the moment, so there aren't that many. And we can specify which particular ones we want to look at by putting in any of these numbers here. So we just want to look at the ones between up to number 11, say. If I reduce that down to 11, click that again, and we just get 10 and 11. If I just want to look at some slightly later ones, click that again, just going to get 13 and 14. Similarly, if I just want ones that have been set by set of 15, click that, and I'm just going to get the ones set by question set of 15. Or I could look at the date, so say the 26th of the 4th, 2020, and I'm just going to get a relatively, whoops, click the wrong button. I'm just going to get a subset of the races set on that day or close to that day. Same with all these things, we can specify the number of minutes of the race, the keywords, the question setters, the question IDs, the description, okay, and even the number of entrants. So if we just want to look at races where we've got quite a few entrants, because it might be a big recruitment process, it might be a big accounting firm doing their annual recruiting, something like that, there might be tens of thousands of people in the race, we could just say, you know, we want only races with a minimum of 3 people already in that race, and you just get those. So you can see you can look at all sorts of different criterion. So let's just go back and look at all of them, and we can see there are 3 different colors essentially here. So this one in yellow is going to happen in the future, so that's starting on the 26th of the 4th, 2020. This one is currently live in pink. Okay, I've put it to last for a very, very long time so that people can join at any point they particularly want, and then the ones in grey are the ones that have already finished. So the most basic thing we can do with the test is we can look at one that's already finished, we click there, and we see what the results of the test are. Okay, so this guy here is clearly going to be the one who's answered most questions. The size of the dot is the number of questions answered. How far across here is the proportion they've got right, that's what it says, accuracy. How far up here is the speed. Okay, so if we look at Albert, answered 9 questions, got 7 right and 2 wrong, and questions per minute 5.8, so he's answering them pretty quickly as well. When you're actually doing the test, you'll see yourself as a red dot if you're actually doing the test yourself. Okay, so the idea of this is you could just see how you are doing relative to everybody else, and if you're the teacher, then you can just copy and paste this the normal way into your mark book if you want to use it as your overall marks at the end of term. So that's the sort of results of the test. Then if we look at tests which are, for example, this one, number 10, is going to happen in the future. It's not started yet. Okay, so it's going to happen in the future. We've got 3 different things we can click on here. Okay, we can click on write invitation. If we click on that, that enables you to invite other people to the test, so you could just tweet that, for example. Okay, if I click that tweet there, it will go out on my Twitter feed, invite people to join that race. They can then click on that and they can join that race. Okay, also you can email people to it. You just copy and paste that into your browser. So it's easy to get other people to come and join a race, either that you've set up or the one that you found and you think would be interesting. The next button here is practice. So this race is keywords are key stage 2, question setters are 15 and 16, question IDs are 2809 and 2811. So it's quite a specific test. If I click practice, okay, you see those things come up here. So I'm now just going to get questions which are specified by those IDs, those question setters, and those keywords. So 3 to the power of 7. Okay, and if I want to see how my general sort of profile is doing as well, I can just click return to profile there. Okay, and I get key stage 2. See how I'm doing with that overall. I'm not doing too badly. I've also got all questions in there, which you can get if you just put a space in there as well. But if I don't want that, I could just take the space out. Okay, so that's what practice does. And then this, you can see here, I am in user 15 at the moment. I have several IDs since I've set the whole thing up, but you would just have one ID. So this race is set up by user 15. So I get the edit race button there. If it's not a race you've set up, you won't get the edit race button. So I click on that. I can then change the details of the race. Okay, so I might want, so that was a question type 2811, so suppose I don't want that. So actually I don't like that question after all. And now submit race. Okay, now I can see that it's just 2809. So if I now go into practice, it's just 2809. And now I'm only going to get that type of question. So the next square number after 325, well, 324 is 18 squared, so it must be 19 squared, which is 361. Try another one. So that's a bit more than 20 squared, so it's going to be 21 squared. Okay, so you can see now what the 3 buttons do there for races which are in the future. You can't join the race because it's not started yet. It's not starting until the 26th of April. Okay, and we are now at the 14th of February. Okay, so the only other type then is this type here, which is the type on a pink background, and that is a currently live test. Okay, so you can still invite people to it. That's exactly the same because it's still ongoing and open at the moment. You can also view the race. You can look at how that race is progressing at the moment. So there's 2 people in this race. You can see here. There's somebody who identifies as me, which is actually me, and there's somebody who identifies as David. And that's the progress they're making. So me is in red because that's me here, ID 15, and we've got, out of 56 questions, we've got 25 right. Okay. But if I want to, I can also, since that is currently live, I can join the race. You notice here I had practice, because that's in the future, and here I have join. So if I click the join button, and I'm actually now in the race. Since we're actually in the race, if I try and edit the keywords, I can't do it. Okay, similarly with the setters and the ID, those can't be edited because we're now actually live in the race. This might be an exam, it might be a recruitment process, it might be a midterm quiz or whatever. Okay, so let me click ask question. I'm going to get a question about golf because that's the keyword. Okay, and may or may not know the answer to that. So if it's known or virtually certain that the player's ball was played by another player as a wrong ball, okay, the player must replace the original ball or another ball on the original spot, which if not known must be estimated. So I think that's true. The player must inform the third party who has hit the ball to stop, but must then continue as the ball lies. So that's clearly false. The player, because you take the ball back as it says in the first one, the player must find the original ball and replace it on the spot, which if not known must be estimated. You don't have to find the original ball because it's not your fault if it's been lost. So sorry, that should be false. So yeah, I've got that wrong by clicking true. But I think you see the idea. Okay, so we've now answered another question. We've still only got 25 right, 31 wrong, 1 passed, and questions per minute 2.6. WIZZKWIZ doesn't try and say what's more important, how many you get right or how quickly you do them, but the data's there depending on the context. So most of the time, if it's practice in a school context, you're not going to be worried about this at all. But if it's a recruitment process and you want people to be really quick and really sharp, possibly, then perhaps that's a bigger a factor. But WIZZKWIZ just gives you the information, and you can use it for whatever purpose you want. Obviously, there could be thousands of people in here, and you just copy and paste that and arrange the data however you want it. So that is how we use races. That's what races are. If you want to set up a new race yourself, simply click on that, enter the details, and these are the details that will come up in this section. Okay, so you can enter the name, you enter the date, enter the start time, enter the length in minutes, so be careful of that, it's not hours, it's minutes. Okay, and then that's what you have to enter. That's it. You could just enter that and submit race if you want to, but then there are additional things you can put in. Okay, so you could put in the minimum number of questions or a maximum number of questions if you want to. So that, for example, if it's a homework exercise, you might put in that we must do at least 20 questions, something like that. And then this part here allows you to define what goes on this part of the screen. So if it's a school homework and you don't want children comparing themselves with other children in the class, you just want them to do the exercise, you just unselect that, so it doesn't then show other students. Depending on the context, you might use accuracy versus speed, so that'd be quite good for a recruitment process. So you can see the further people move up to this top right corner, the better they're doing, the more likely they are to get the interview at the next stage, something like that. And then to actually narrow down the number of questions set, you could select the keywords. As we saw below, when we clicked on that quiz, we got the keywords, the setters, and the IDs to come up here. Well, you can. This is where you can put in what the keywords are, what the question setters are, and what the question IDs are. Okay. So that's how. Then you just click Submit Race, and that enters your new race into the system. Okay, so relatively straightforward to do. And that's all you need to know about setting up and using races.